Hello, our friends. How are you? We hope you're having a fabulous day and a fabulous week.
Yes,
And
and welcome to another podcast of Behind the Scenes with
with
Santa
Santa
and
and
Mrs.
Mrs. Claus.
Claus.
That's right. And speaking of Santa, we're going to talk about how Santa has moved through the centuries and how he became so popular as he is now.
Yeah,
So,
on a couple of the previous episodes, of course, we talked about the origins of Santa Claus, which was St.
mhm.
Nicholas. And well, we really don't know exactly how, but his legend, he was so well thought of, and the image of the gift giver stayed with him up through all those centuries,
Yes,
and he was still associated with good works and gift giving, and of course as Santa had mentioned, the Feast of Saint Nicholas
hmm
is on December 6th.
hmm
So we kind of wanted to bring it forward a little bit more
yeah.
now.
We're
To
going to go from 330 AD all the way to today. So,
Yeah, so pretty much we're going to go into Europe, which is really where the legends of Santa Claus really started to grow, and more toward the 1700s, because before that, uh, children were not really considered. In fact, some children weren't even named until they grew to a certain age because there
till
was
they
so
were
much
eight
death.
years old.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there was
because
so
there was
much
so
death.
much child death. Yeah,
And there certainly weren't any gifts being given out to children. There was no playtime
yeah.
for children.
hmm
But in the 1700s, things started to change, and there was more wealth distributed. And I think that's really when the Feast of St. Nicholas, in particular, was celebrated.
Yeah, that really took hold back in the late 1600s, early
Right.
1700s. And his name had spread by that point in time.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was all over Europe and the Middle East and what have you.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
And so, those good works started, to show themselves then in homes. And one of the things we talked about was either putting shoes outside the door, or I think then they also
And
hung
stockings.
stockings. They also
hmm
hung stockings,
Yep.
which of course, St. Nicholas would come in and put in treats. At that time, it was more food related
Yes.
rather than toy related, but nonetheless, there
Yep.
were treats put out. And then also along that period of time, it kind of came the notion of the good kids and the
And the
naughty
not so good
kids.
kids.
Yeah. And of course, Santa has always been associated with the good children,
Yes,
which
he
even
was the benevolent,
right.
gift giver and that kind of
hmm
thing. And it's kind of like, well, what do you do when you have a naughty kid that just won't listen to anything?
Exactly.
And so Krampus was
Yes.
kind of born. Krampus or Black
Black
Peter
Peter.
or yeah,
Several
and
names for him.
lots of different names depending on where you were. But that was kind of the punisher of naughty children.
Yes.
And he would carry a bag of switches
Yeah.
and, would leave a switch instead of leaving candy or
hmm
food goods. He'd leave a switch saying, "You're not being good."
Right.
So, and he was even, legend had he even took kids if they were particularly naughty down to his lair. And but that didn't happen too often, thankfully.
No.
But yeah,
And
but
there's a lot of legends about him. And in fact, one of the things I want to show you is a book that Santa wrote, The
yep,
Faces of Krampus.
yep,
And if you'd like to learn, and of course, obviously, this is always a blend of fiction and
Of course.
uh,
Of course.
truth. But this is available on our website and our store.
Yes.
So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about him, I invite you to get the Faces of Krampus. Um, anyway, so then that evolved for a while, and then it was how it really came to America. Is then, of course, how the people came over from Europe and started to settle into America, and then those traditions came forward, and in fact, the Dutch actually settled New York City, the area around New York City. They were quite predominantly Dutch, and the Dutch called Santa
Sinterklaas.
Sinterklaas.
Yes.
So that's where Santa Claus comes from.
Yes.
So there's always, it's kind of fun. There's you think, you wonder really where all these things came from, and it is tradition. I mean, I'm not really sure how the Dutch came up with the name Sinterklaas, but again, that carried over.
Well, it was a derivative of Saint Nicholas.
Yeah,
so,
and that came over, to the U.S. And then we called him Santa Claus.
And of course, after that happened, then the Germans, started spreading some of the legends and stuff,
Yes.
and the English, and it just kind of grew from there. It's like anything else. When you have a lot of joy and hope, it's contagious.
Yes.
And it just kind of grew from there. And that's truly how Santa Claus has grown to be so popular, because he's always been a symbol of joy,
Yes.
hope, and giving.
Right. And one of the other things that I think happened in the transition from Europe to the U.S. is we did not have Black Peter or Krampus or whoever he was called, but then we started to talk about coal.
Yes.
So I believe that was, again, a tradition that was changed.
Again, what do you do with
adapted.
naughty kids?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we didn't have Black Peter, but you would get coal in your stocking instead of treats.
Yes.
So, and toys. Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of homes were heated with coal. So,
Yes. So it was handy.
Yeah. Yeah. So still the naughty and nice
Yes.
carried forward.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, obviously, the kids want to be on Santa's nice list, not his naughty list.
I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of those nice kids this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other thing I think, just as a quick tie-in, because I think not everybody knows that we've talked about it before, but Clement Clark Moore, writing the night before, the night before Christmas.
Night before Christmas.
That was in 1823. So, you don't realize, again, maybe how far in the past that really was. And of course, from that poem, that's where we get all the names of the reindeer.
Well, and and that was even prior to like the Civil War and that kind of thing. Where Thomas Nast started to actually use the description that Moore put in his poem and created what looks pretty much like our Santa Claus today.
The Santa suit,
so,
yeah.
Not only the Santa suit, but also the belly and the, the length of the beard and all that. So, this has been something that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then thousands before that. So, going back into Europe and such. So.
And then one other little side point, because a lot of people, say, oh, well, Santa is commercial. And this was all, relatively in this short amount of time, maybe the last 20, 30 years. And that's not really true. That's really not true at all. Santa started to appear in, stores. They didn't certainly have malls, but he started to appear in stores, was it the 1880s?
Yeah, pretty
1880s.
much. Yeah.
And so, again, this isn't something that just happened a couple of years ago. It's actually good, bad, or indifferent. That's been going on for quite a few decades now. So
And I
it's
still
been over
say
here.
it's more good
Yeah,
than anything.
yeah.
If nothing else, it serves as a reminder to kids that, your behavior, if it's good, is going to be rewarded.
Yes.
And
yes.
if it's not,
It's not
you're
gonna be.
certainly not going to be
No,
rewarded. So
no.
it's better to be a better person, and especially nowadays, we need that more than ever. I
Why
mean,
don't
we
we?
need to have people that are uplifted and people that are looking forward to and
Yes.
being optimistic and teaching our kids to be optimistic and to teach our kids to care about others.
Yeah, to treat each other with respect.
And that's something Santa has always
yes,
been
always,
about.
always, always, always. So
You
even
always treat people with respect and dignity and
Yeah.
kindness.
yeah, which again harkens back to Saint Nicholas, and if you think really of how important and how much importance was given to that man at that time for his legend to come forward for so long, that sure speaks a lot, doesn't it?
Well, it really is
know?
amazing. I mean, that he's been around for literally thousands of years now.
Yeah.
And his legacy still continues. And of course, we don't have to tell you, you see Santa Claus all over the place.
Yes.
And in about another month or so, he's really going to be all over the place. So,
He is.
including me.
Yeah.
I'm traveling myself. So,
Yeah.
by all means, if you're in the Houston area, look me up. I'm going to be at the Baybrook Mall in Houston.
Yeah.
So
I'll be giving you some more information about that,
in a very soon podcast, because we're only a little over a month away from leaving for that. So, yeah.
So we hope, again, one of our listeners had asked about the how the traditions of Santa Claus came about, and obviously we gave a very kind of quick rendition of that. But again, there is substance to this. It wasn't just kind of pie in the sky of all of a sudden Santa Claus appeared for no particular reason.
Yeah, and we're not going to, I mean, we can't delve as deeply as I would love to tell you all the things about St. Nicholas and Santa Claus, but there is plenty on the internet.
Yeah,
and
there
if
is.
you look up St. Nicholas on Google, if you Google that, you will find all kinds of wonderful websites and stuff, and including things that really delve into where he was born and how he lived, what he was involved in, and the hundreds of things that he is considered a patron saint for.
Yeah.
Because it really is more than 100 different groups. So check that out.
Yes.
Look up St. Nicholas on your computer.
And I think there's even some interesting biographical things for Santa Claus himself. So again, the internet's great. You can really listen.
You'd be amazed how many names there are for Saint Nicholas alone.
Well, that's true through the different countries.
But, I mean, we mentioned Sinterklaas, but I could go on forever.
Yeah. Well, every country
has their own version
name for Santa Claus. The other thing we wanted to remind you was that this is going to be our last audio podcast that is going to be up on all the different platforms because we're going to be concentrating solely on YouTube starting next month. So and of course, our little fella here playing. We want to remind you that our podcast comes out twice a month.
Yes, 10th and the 24th.
So, thank you all for listening.
Joining us.
We appreciate you so much.
Every time.
Yes, and love your comments. And again, if you have any questions about what we've talked about, we would love to answer them for you.
And we'll be getting back into some of the things that we've done personally, and
starting next month.
Which is fun to talk about.
Yeah.
We love to tell you some of the adventures we've had and what we've done during our lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us again.
Yes.
God bless you all. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Take care.